Good evening, everybody, and welcome into another night with the museum here at the Schomburg Library. I'm so excited. We'll be spending this evening with the Computer History Museum. But before I introduce our speaker, just a few of our friendly Zoom reminders. You all know the drill at this point. Your cameras and microphones are off, so if you need to ask a question about anything technical related that's going on, or if you just have a question for the speaker, you can throw those in the Q&A. I'll be monitoring the Q&A for the entire program. So if you're experiencing a technical difficulty, I can go back and forth with you there. If you have questions, we'll take those at the end, but don't hesitate, throw them in the Q&A as you think of them. That way you don't forget them once we get to the end. But we will take all questions at the end for our speaker. You'll also notice that closed captions have been enabled, and you can turn those on or off as you wish using your Zoom toolbar. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dag Spicer. He is the senior curator at the Computer History Museum, home to the world's largest collection of computing artifacts, documents, media, and a firm. I'm not saying this word right at all. Ephem. Dag, can you say it for me?
Eph eph ephemera.
Ephemera, thank you. An
No
ephemera
problem.
and a global resource for computing history research. The museum has three world-class exhibits currently active. Tonight's talk will give an overview of them and the museum's facilities while focusing on their latest exhibit, Chatbots Decoded, Exploring AI. And I know everybody out there has been very interested in some of the AI programs we've been having here, so I'm sure you guys are going to learn quite a lot tonight from Dag. So, Dag, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and take it
My
away.
my pleasure. Thank you, Chris, and welcome everyone. Happy to be with you tonight. It's great to be able to talk about the Computer History Museum, which is home to the world's largest collection of computing objects and a research hub for computer history. So here's a picture of our building on the right there. That's our main campus. It's a 120,000 square foot campus. And we have a full-time staff of about 75 people. We get about 200,000 people a year coming through the physical exhibits and several million coming in over the internet to see our website, computerhistory.org. So our vision is to shape a better future. And really the thought behind that is to help people understand the technological environment that we're all living in and which is changing daily, and to both explain that, but also look at the history of the changes that are occurring today, because looking back at history can often give you insight into decisions you might make in the present and in the future. They say history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. And so sometimes looking back is a good thing and can help you avoid mistakes, for example. So our mission is to decode the technology, its computing past, digital present, and its future impact on humanity. And that's really, in a nutshell, our the motivation behind what we do. And our theory of change, which is a fancy sort of management term, is basically that our work creates informed digital citizens that can make good decisions in the future. And as you'll see coming up when we deal with AI, that is going to be a real challenge for people to integrate AI into their lives. We have two main audience types that come to the museum, what we call the tech curious and the tech enthusiasts. So the tech curious essentially is just all of us, unless you really don't like technology. But I think most of us have a cell phone of some kind or other, for example, and by definition, those are handheld computers. And if you're at all curious about how even just your iPhone works, let alone the history of developments that led to it, the Computer History Museum is a place for you. And then in the center, of course, we have the technology enthusiast who is, we're in the middle of Silicon Valley. So as you can imagine, there are a lot of engineers and programmers in our immediate vicinity. And so they are very interested in the exhibits that we put on. Interesting side note there is that even technologists who may understand how the technology works usually don't understand or know the history behind the technology. So a lot of these current, younger programmers and engineers and so on are quite amazed when they come to the Computer History Museum and they see that, oh my gosh, this thing I've been working on, it's actually, there have been people working on this same problem for 50, 60 years. And look at all the different ways they tried to solve it. First, they used relays, then vacuum tubes, then transistors, then integrated circuits. And who knows, maybe in the future, maybe quantum computing uh, and uh, and some other some other theoretical things. So the museum is really a home for a lot of different things, and we're going to be looking at some of our exhibitions, especially the one on AI. But what we do frequently, about 4 times a month, is have online lectures on amazing topics of current interest, and we have a great education program for K through 12. For the Yellow School Bus Brigade comes to the museum frequently, and we have great programs for them that combine learning uh, modern techniques of computer science. Like, for example, they each get a Raspberry Pi computer, but then weaving in the history of computing into their experience. So it's a much more complete, and it helps people develop a sense of disciplinary identity. That is, I belong to this group, to the same group of people who have been working on this problem for all these years. It kind of makes them feel, or our visitors feel like they belong, that they're disciplined. Like doctors and lawyers have pretty pretty strong understandings of what their discipline and their professions allow. But for because people in computing can come from any discipline at all, and some of the best programmers have no college education at all. Um, you really have to keep an open environment in Silicon Valley and meet people where they are as young as you can. So we have three major exhibits. One is called Revolution. That is our main history of computing timeline. And it's really tells the story of computing from the abacus to the iPhone. And that's about 2,000 years, 25,000 square feet in 19 galleries with about 1,100 unique artifacts. And when you come to this exhibit, it really is comprehensive, and it can take you anywhere from 45 minutes to, we had one curator, another curator, who came in and spent 7 hours in the exhibit. But I would say that's a real outlier. The average exhibit visit is about an hour to 2 hours. Make Software Change the World is our second exhibit, and that explores 7 different software stories: Photoshop, MP3, Car Crash, Wikipedia, World of Warcraft, and how each of those software stories itself has a history. So one of the things we do when we talk about when developing exhibits is we use the acronym HIT: History, Impact, Technology. And we try to weave those three themes into coherent stories. And that's really how we deliver our message to people. We also have the most unique experiences, 2 running computers from 1959. One is essentially a mainframe, an IBM mainframe computer that you can come in and punch your name on punch cards. Some of you may remember those, and feed it to the computer, and the computer will print out your name in giant letters. And the other computer is the PDP-1, which is a small single user computer from 1959. Imagine that, a computer all to yourself in 1959. We like to call it a personal computer, although that's not really, that's kind of using a current term and applying it to the past. But um, so when we do exhibits, we try to think of a few core principles. One is it has to be about the audience and meeting them where they are. So we try to shy away from descriptions that just deal with the pure technology. We're essentially storytellers. We're not really trying to explain how computers work, although we do that when necessary. But we are trying to explain the history of it and what people used it for. So essentially, the history of computing is kind of the history of problem solving and the different tools that people used over time to solve those problems. And we try to use a balanced perspective, which means, we listen to both we try to list pros and cons behind technologies. Uh, with AI, you've got some very strong uh, views on both sides of the equation. Uh, the third principle is foundation of all our exhibits is in our amazing collection, which now has about 80,000 objects in it, and one of almost every computer made, uh, with a few exceptions. And then a living narrative, which is to tell the story of how these various technologies were actually used and bring it home to people's lived experience. So let's get into the AI exhibit. That gives you a bit of background on the museum. And the AI exhibit is in a space which is a, a changing exhibit space. So on the left there, you can see we had an exhibit on computer chess. And on the right, you can see our AI and robotics exhibit that we're going to dig into in just a second. Now, on the left is kind of interesting. Our computer chess exhibit, we actually had Deep Blue um, from IBM, and we still have it on display. That is the computer that defeated Garry Kasparov in 1997 in the world uh, in a in a very closely watched around the world chess championship. That was billed as man versus machine. I think the New York Times said man lost, which is a bit harsh. Anyway, um, so some of the exhibit that we're looking at is called chatbots, and a chatbot is a form of artificial intelligence, a form of conversational artificial intelligence. And I think by now I can probably safely assume most of the people watching tonight have had some kind of experience with a chatbot, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. If you haven't, that's fine. I'll take that into consideration. But essentially, what chatbots are conversational. They're sort of a conversational interface to the world's knowledge. So, one of the things that we'll get into a little later is um, when we think about big questions, are chatbots actually thinking, or are they just playing a game that's statistically based and makes you and thereby generates great sounding answers, which may or may not be very accurate. And then we touch on the uh, hidden costs of AI. For example, when you do a search on ChatGPT, depending on the complexity of your prompt, it can take uh, a lot of energy, both electricity and water. Like I think they say a full bottle of water, the kind you just drink, a personal size, for every query that you do on ChatGPT. But again, it does just depend on the query itself. So our key messages, every exhibit starts with a series of 3 or 4 key messages, and that those are essentially the ideas you want to leave in people's heads as they leave the exhibit. And chatbots, ChatGPT is sort of the big one, but there are several others. And the thing that's happening with chatbots is they're sort of carving out niche areas. So now you have chatbot-based dating applications, chatbot-based romantic relationships, people forming relationships with their chatbots. Uh, and uh, One rather disturbing story I read the other day was that a person in therapy caught their therapist using ChatGPT in session to answer a therapeutic problem. So uh, there are some real guardrails that need to be put up for this technology. So we believe the story of, I'm sorry, chatbots start um, actually hundreds of years ago. And there's a Jewish tradition of the golem, which is a mound of clay that you can um, imbue with, that can go and do things for you if you write little messages to it. Uh, and they chatbots, as they are today, have the potential to change a lot of what we do as our day-to-day lives. There's sort of a right now, for example, with Sora, which is a video-based AI agent that's a lot of fun to play with. Um, there's People are just having fun with the technology, but it's the dark side is that all that same technology once you once a video can be created of anything, uh, we as humanity needs to kind of reassess how it evaluates the the truth of all the information we're bombarded with. So chatbots have a bit of a struggle in that sense, but I feel, or we feel, that everybody needs to understand them because they're, whether, Wells Fargo has a chatbot, Costco has a chatbot, uh, AT&T has a chatbot. You are going to interact with a chatbot whether you want to or not. So now those ones are tightly constrained within their corporate playpen. But chatbots themselves, if you think about how they're trained, they're essentially reading all of Wikipedia and hundreds of other similar sources. There's an archive which is not really legal, so I won't mention it, but it has tens of terabytes of published information, books, and PDFs that the world that is generally published. So it's a massive case of piracy. But the chatbots companies are using it nonetheless to train their chatbots. So could be fruit of a poison tree, perhaps. So we ask these questions: what are chatbots? Where do they come from? Why do they matter? And we'll ask you what you think in the Q&A. But I think I just sort of answered the top three. So now I know this is a big splash of photos, and I'm sorry, I apologize for it. There's just a couple of things I want to point out. Um, uh, One of the original chatbots that, if you can see my arrow, I'm not sure. I'm pointing at 2001, A Space Odyssey, which is off to the left in the bottom. And of course, HAL, the computer there that went crazy and killed the crew. But that is an early example of a chatbot. Um, and by the way, the name for Siri, which is a little, not really a chatbot, but it's a voice interface to the iPhone and other Apple devices. It was initially called HAL in honor of the HAL 9000 computer. Uh, and let's see, maybe I'll just move on there. Okay. Yes. So on the left here, we start out with the Golem, as I mentioned, and left bottom, the Golem of Prague. We have a movie of this film being played in the exhibit. It's very beautiful. And then the classic book by Isaac Asimov of I, Robot, which is, why do we have this here? It's because um, there are three uh, in this book, robots are interact with humans very, very closely. And let's see, off to the right, far right, Writers Guild on strike. This is under the rubric of, do we have to worry about AI and our jobs? You might remember about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, the Writers Guild of America, WGA, in Hollywood went on strike. Um, Not so much over pay, but over their fears that scripts and, in fact, even the likenesses of human actors were going to be replaced by AI, cutting them, destroying their livelihoods, essentially. I can tell you a little story of my sister, who is a voiceover actor. Her livelihood was destroyed about 6 months ago by AI, because now you can type a text, have it read in any language with any accent you want, delivered instantly for free. So pretty hard to compete with that. So I already personally know someone who's been affected by that. Interestingly, some of the hardware at the bottom there, beside the sign that says AI protections now, just off to the lower left there, that is one of the famous NVIDIA H100 Hopper boards, named after Grace Hopper, the famous computer pioneer. These boards are somewhere north of 40 to $50,000, and they're really the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and so on buy these by the tens and even hundreds of thousands. So the cost of some of these new AI data centers, for example, they are estimating, and they are in the multi-billion dollar range. So 6, 7, 8, $10 billion for an AI data center. A third of that cost is NVIDIA hardware. So they're doing very well. And what do these chips do? Well, they are essentially running neural network software. And uh, neural networks are a form of computing that allows you to train as a system on various data without giving the computer explicit instructions on what to do with the data. You feed the data into the system, and then you uh, put it through the neural net a few times, and it starts to see patterns, and it recognizes patterns. At that point, you can query it and ask it for answers to whatever you've trained it on. So one of the things I really want to point out, and I'm going to show you the actual, uh, it involves a bird, a parrot. One of the crucial insights behind the AI use of what are called large language models that are running on neural networks are what has been called a stochastic parrot. And what that means is stochastic just means statistical, and a parrot is a bird that, just for purposes of this analogy, just repeats whatever it hears. So the idea behind this critique of AI is that what it is doing has nothing to do with thinking. It's just very good at conversation. We've trained these AIs on all of Wikipedia, all of the web, or, just speaking a bit silly there, but, a vast amount of knowledge that had been fed into them. And then asking asking the AI to perform some task with uh, what it's really doing is it's knows what word comes after the after answers, so it can form answers just based on grammatical frequencies and statistical analysis of text without understanding what it means. So AI, GPT and AI, they're not thinking, and I think probably most people watching tonight have have a good idea that that's true, just intuitively, you know. Um, so what they're doing, according to this critique of the stochastic parrot, is actually just a very clever game of um, pattern matching. Now, one of the first, these are our interactive experiences that we have. So things that you can do inside the chatbot exhibit. So the first thing to note is the ELIZA exhibit, which is off to the left there. That was created in 1966 by MIT professor Joseph Weizenbaum. And what it is, it pretends to be a therapist. But it's really, really basic. And if you can imagine, in 1966, computers were very, very basic, not much memory. You can't, programs just cannot be that long or slat, which which means they can't be that sophisticated. And so he made this program, and he was shocked by how quickly people revealed their innermost thoughts to this program, which was, if you look at the program, it's only like 5 or 6 pages long. Um, and so what he concluded from that was that people are very easily fooled, which I guess we probably might have known that already, but in the context of computers, it was something new, that it just a, a little intelligence seems to go a long way. And what I'm going to show you, if you look at the bottom here, is this sort of smiling robot. This robot is called Amica, and she is a Hollywood prop robot that is controlled by ChatGPT. And whoops, I'm going to, I think this is the video. So sorry, here's the video of the exhibit. It lasts about 2 minutes. I probably should have started with this. Sorry. So let's continue.
Hey Dag, is there supposed to be sound with this video?
Oh, yes.
If you um it could be one of two things. You might need to under share. Uh
Okay.
there might be an option for you about sharing audio. Typically videos immediately do it. So you might do you have your computer muted?
Ah, um, I would have to stop the share, I think, to get at that video.
You're fine. There's a couple ways to fix this problem. One second. Let me
Okay.
creep on my end to see if I can, hi everyone, uh correctly direct you. Um bu- bu- bu-
Oh, wait, I got it. I hovered over something. Uh, I see my options. Uh, um, Let me try this.
Still not hearing it.
Nope.
Um,
Sorry,
can you
guys.
hear it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That means your computer isn't muted. If you click on the share button, do you have an option for like sharing audio?
Yeah, I was looking for that.
Sometimes, every now and then, Zoom is very like, hey, please specifically share your audio.
Right. I've got so many options here.
I know, right?
Test speakers, switch to phone audio.
Thanks for
Audio.
bearing with us, everybody.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, it's fine without music. It's just kind of, there's no
Oh, is it just
speaking.
music?
It's just music.
Oh,
So,
okay, yeah. Let it roll. Do you want? I can
okay.
beatbox in the background.
Sorry. Say that again.
I said I can beatbox in the background.
Oh, okay. Uh, okay, here we go. Sorry, folks. Okay. Sorry about that. Uh, oh, hmm, get the video back. Okay. Sorry about this. Uh, um, okay. So, yes, I actually would really like to get the audio working because there's an important interaction with the robot here. Um, but I guess we can't do it. Hmm. All right. So you can see the text in the bottom, and unfortunately, that's anyway. This is Amica. She's a Hollywood robot that comes from the UK, a company called Engineered Arts, and she's connected to ChatGPT 4.0, so you can ask her anything, and also in over 15 different languages. So this is a fantastic attraction for our visitors who can come from all over the world and can just speak in their native language and ask Amica anything. And it's great. We've had some really fun conversations with her there in front of visitors. Okay. Oops. Okay. Yes. Let's see. Yeah, and there's Amica. Um, gosh, I wish we could get this working. Anyway, she says it in multiple languages. Uh, we'll just move on. Or you can see her speak anyway. Okay. Now, one of the things we did, because this is a very complex topic and it took a lot of thinking, basically four curators working on this for almost a year. And one of the most difficult things was to talk about neural networks and how they work. And what we did was we connected up with a YouTuber called Three Blue, One Green, and he was an amazing animator and made these incredible online animations and explainers about how various technology and including software programs work. And so he did this on a on neural networks because they are the the root of how all this AI magic works as neural networks. So just to drive home the point that we did have some partners, Engineered Arts on Amica and this guy here. Visual learning was really important in this exhibit, and so we tried to show on the left there, you can see these are all AI generated pictures, generative AI, which means you give it a prompt and it will draw this for you. So you could say on the top left, for example, draw me a picture of Alan Turing as a young man in the style of Andy Warhol. And that's what it did. Um, and let's see, I guess, yeah, this big painting you see on the wall here, the sort of yellow with the yellow trees and so on. If you zoom in, it's actually made out of eyes and which are replicated multiple times over by AI. This is completely done by AI, this this giant picture, which is quite beautiful when you look at it. AI, besides being technical, is also emotional. And we get the most incredible comments from people who are expressing their views, both pro and con, about the technology. And I would say the feelings are divided. There's a lot of, I would say, people on both sides, 50-50 almost, think it's great. Others who think it's the end of the world. So uh, one of the things that AI, just as an exhibit technique that we like to do is acknowledge the controversy about AI. So we don't just want to be promoters of AI. And, that's not the way to make people think critically about a technology. We're not a trade show. We're not selling NVIDIA hardware or anything else. We're it's important. So we're instead looking at the impacts that this technology has on people. One of the ones was the earlier Writers Guild of America strike that I mentioned, and those signs. We went down to LA and got some signs from the striking writers and brought them and used them in the exhibit. And there's a lot of uh, in a way, AI is a mirror to us and our everything that humans have said and written and so forth. And so humans are being imperfect. The AI, to the extent it is modeled on humans, is also imperfect. And here we did a series of interviews, which, by the way, this exhibit is all online, and I'll follow up with an exhibit, with a link. And I think you'll probably appreciate it a little more. I've just given you a quick overview, but you can really dig into the content if you go online. And it's a much more cohesive story than I've made it out to be. Uh, so uh, here are a couple of things. The New York Times came and saw our exhibit and was wrote a very nice article about us. And Amica was kind of a star. You can see her there. On the right, you see our former CEO and Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA. And then underneath is my boss, Kirsten Tashev, who's the VP of Exhibits and Collections, and she basically is the the brains behind all of these exhibits. And she is explaining the exhibit to Bill Gates on a visit he made a few months ago. Here's some visitor feedback we had about our exhibits, which is pretty good. I feel like people came away having learned something. And on the right, they feel, or I'm a little more informed. I'm a lot more informed. I don't feel as confused as I did. Those are all, net positives. And we know there's a lot of content there. So the fact that that message is being delivered means people are taking the time to really absorb and go through the exhibit and read the text and do the interactives and so on. So that's the end of my little chat. It's a bit shorter, maybe by 10 minutes than I thought, but that gives us more time for Q&A if you'd like. And by the way, if you have any questions afterwards or you'd like to follow up with me and maybe get some tickets, I'd be happy to have people come and get you some tickets. If you want to come out west and visit us, we're in Mountain View, California. Just reach out to me and we'll make it happen. Okay, I think at that point, I'll hand it back to Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Dag, thank you so much. If anyone has any
Oh, I
questions,
can't, I can't hear you, Chris. I think, sorry.
can you hear me now?
Uh,
Huh,
no.
wait,
Okay.
now?
Okay, now I got it. Sorry, it's my fault.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, it was you. Okay, cool. I was like,
yeah,
oh. Um,
yeah.
oh, great. We already have a question. Uh, are the computer history, does the Computer History Museum have any programs that are available virtually so patrons could maybe join from where they are?
Yes, all three of our exhibits are online.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
yeah, I can send you links that you can share with them. Or you could just email me and I'll send you the links. Um,
Are they able to find them from your website?
from the website, yes. Sorry, that's
Perfect.
a much more direct.
No, 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 you're fine. I was
Uh,
gonna say, I
yeah,
always send out
just
an after action email, and I do have your website linked in that email. So you guys, when you get that email from me at the end of the program, you'll be able to click on the Computer History Museum on it's hyperlinked through. You'll see when you get the email, and you can find all these wonderful programs there that way. Wonderful, Dag. Thank you. So I'm so glad that everyone can enjoy these exhibits in more depth, as
yeah,
well. Um,
yeah.
Dag, shared so many wonderful artifacts and interesting things throughout your program, but you and I were talking before we let people in. You said you've been with the museum for almost 30 years now. What is your favorite artifact that has come through the museum in your time?
Oh, this is fun. So. One of them is Enigma, the German encryption machine. We have one.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is the Cray one, which is by your neighbor down in Wisconsin by Seymour Cray.
Uh-huh.
And but here's a really fun one that I like. It's called the Curator, and it's an analog computer for dairy cattle, to figure out how much feed, like how to mix their feed, right? Like how much, and and it's hilarious. It came out in the 60s, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just this very simple device with a very specific purpose. They call the calculator. So that's one of the, just because it's so oddball, that's one of my favorites.
Now, a similar question. When I worked in a museum, we used to play a game on specialty tours with our museum guests called This Museum's on Fire, which always led to the big question, the museum's on fire. What are you smashing and taking with you? What case are you smashing?
Oh,
What item are you taking?
right. Uh, well, I guess probably our Apple One computer, just in terms of value, that's pretty high. And there's a very small number of them left, so I might go with that one.
Good answer. A question from one of our online patrons. How many early computers do you have that are still operational besides the two previously mentioned? And do you have any Wang computers?
So yes, we have several Wang computers. Several are actually on display in our mini computer. They made minis and they made calculators. So we have some of the early calculators he made. One of the cool things about Wang was its founder, An Wang, was one of the critical inventors behind core memory, which was the standard form of computer memory for 30 years, from about the mid 50s to the 80s. It was Wang's profits on his core memory patents that allowed him to set up Wang Computer. So he was a brilliant physicist and a good businessman as well. Now, the other thing about the other computers is we only have those two running, although many are runnable. Um, but when you have a museum, you have to make sort of hard choices about, well, how many resort, first of all, is there space
Mhm.
for a whole other experience? These are fairly large machines. And then can you resource it properly? Can you get other volunteers, for example, that will help you bring it back to life and maintain museum standards, uh, and yeah, so I guess that's it. We do have just those two machines, but they are really the only two. I think that's the only running punch card installation in the world right now, or forever.
What's your oldest computer in your collection?
So the oldest, I'll just say item, is from 1700. It's a set of Napier's bones, which are little wooden sticks with numbers on them that let you multiply and divide by using addition and subtraction, by using what Napier invented, a thing called logarithms. So I know I'm going back to like 10th grade here, but that's probably one of the things. It's like a little pocket calculator. In terms of oldest computer, like a real electronic computer, mm, well, yeah, I don't know if this counts, but we have parts of the ENIAC, but it's on loan from the Smithsonian. So that's in 1946. It's really the world's first electronic computer.
Now I have a probably a dumb question, but if
Yeah.
if the stick, these little wooden sticks, and this is
Yeah.
when this gentleman had invented logarithm, is that why it's called logarithm? Because it's made with sticks?
Oh, that's an interesting. I don't know. That's a great question. Good
Uh,
history
there-
of
there's
science
the thing.
question.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure it has something. I'm sure it's not, but also sometimes it's silly like that with how we have words.
Yeah.
Another question from online. Do many of the hardware and software companies that have contributed artifacts also have their own museums or archives?
Oh, that's a great question. So it seems not. Microsoft is an exception. They have pretty good archives. Hewlett Packard had really nice archives, and I'm so sad to say that in the past tense because they had a horrible fire and
Mm.
lost so much of their company history. Um, let's see. One of the problems that or let's say opportunities that we have is when companies are acquired, sometimes company being acquired reaches out to us and they'll say, hey, we know as soon as we're acquired, um, all our stuff is just going to get tossed, like all our history and it's just going to be absorbed into the Borg, you know, into the new company. And that's so true.
Hmm.
And we've seen that many times. And in fact, some of our archive should point out that we have this museum, which is the building behind me. We have two other muse buildings, one with, we only have 1% of our objects on display in the museum. So the other 80,000 are in another building. And then we have an archive just for documents and media with over a linear mile of documentation related to computers. So we're a museum and an archive, and they're very they're mutually reinforcing. It's really great. And yeah, having those. So we get lots of researchers as well, people coming for visits to see the exhibits, but then also people just coming to the archives. They're doing research. Could be someone in a middle school to a professor. We see all kinds.
Wonderful. How international is your collection?
It's very that's a great question. Obviously, being in the States and the predominance just in historical terms of America in the computing industry necessarily means you're going to have a pretty high percentage of American
Mhm.
machines. And IBM was just the world dominated the world for decades, that one company alone. And but we're always looking for new machines. I just got two machines from Romania last week, and I'm looking for machines from Spain. If anyone on the call knows of Spain, uh, typically personal computers, not big mainframes, but
Mhm.
yeah. So it's international, both aspirationally, like that is a serious goal that we're always trying to shoot for and hunt down artifacts
Mhm.
and also in practical terms. But it's not as many, that we actually have. I would say probably 200 machines from no, more like 400 machines from non-US sources. So anywhere from the former Soviet Union, Romania, Bulgaria, East Germany. East Germany was a powerhouse in terms of computing during the Cold War. Yeah.
Are there other computer museums across the world outside of like do you have like I guess sister museum would be a maybe not the right term, but are there like if I were to go to Germany, would they have a museum of computers and technology?
They do indeed. They have an excellent museum called the Nixdorf. And this idea of computer museums, when we started out about 30 years ago, the idea of computer history was, I remember going to a science museum conference and saying, yeah, we're starting a computer museum. And people, like, they literally groaned. They're just like, oh, how, how it's like watching paint dry. How exciting could that be? And, you know, over the last 3 decades, it's become like a major thing. People are
Hmm.
crazy for computer history, like whether it's a guy on YouTube or, someone a school project or, it's really permeated the culture. So we've, the museum has developed along with this, sort of ridden this wave. It's really fantastic, as well as sort of being, if I may, sort of an instigator of that wave
Yeah.
to a small measure. Yeah.
We have another question from online. Too. Do you have many examples of calculators and cell phones in your collection?
Calculators, yes. Cell phones, I would say we have, I think, every iPhone made. And then recently someone said, what about Android? So we need to start doing those. But the idea, it's a great question because it raises the point, like, do you want to be comprehensive or do you want to be representative? In other words, do you want to have every single little arrowhead on the wall, like every variation, right?
Hmm.
Or pine cone or whatever, whatever it is. Or do you just want to have like milestones, like really only this was important, and then these other things, they're not really that important for now. And then so you hit sort of the key things that really had an impact. And one of
Hmm.
the things we do to um, to do that is we have this thing called the 10-year rule, which is we basically wait till something's 10 years old before we decide whether it should come in the collection. And that's so we can assess whether it had any impact.
Hmm.
Now, sometimes, even if it did not have an impact, sometimes we'll take it anyway if it's kind of an interesting failure. But generally speaking, that's our approach. We wait a bit to see what the impact is.
For sure. Does your museum have I'm kind of adapting this question, a collection regards to chips, and do you share chip history within your exhibits?
We do. Not so much in exhibits, but we have an online exhibit which is about semiconductor history. So that absolutely deals with that. It's called the Silicon Engine. And if you put that in Google, or you can get it from our website, but Silicon Engine will get you there in Google. And it starts with it starts in the 19th century, actually, with very early experiments with copper oxide rectifiers,
Hmm.
and then goes up to 2020, the latest microprocessors. So,
Nice. I think you might have mentioned this. I can't 100% remember. When was the museum founded and who founded the museum?
oh yeah, no, I didn't actually mention that. That's great. It was founded in 1978 as a it was founded in the lobby of Digital Equipment Corporation, which was a major manufacturer of mini computers. In fact, Digital Equipment Corporation, or DEC, as it was known, DEC, was the second largest computer company by the 1980s. Only IBM was larger. And it dominated the market with this computer called the VAX, VAX, the VAX computer. Every university had one, a government office. They sold incredible amounts of them, and it made the company. So the main engineer behind that was Gordon Bell, and he and his wife founded the museum at Digital Equipment. He was a vice president at the time, so he had some pull. And he said, well, we have a personal collection at home of like old calculators and slide rules and things like that. How about we get a bit of money in the uh, and set up a little museum display in the lobby of this building. So that was literally the very, you know, uh, prototypical, um, yeah, literally the prototype of the museum. We then moved to a proper building in Boston where we were for about 15, 16 years on Congress Street, but on the Museum Wharf. And then, excuse me, we moved out here in 96 and have been here since there. So it really started in 79 and we're still here. And our timeline is we kind of look ahead. This will sound crazy, but 100 years or more, we try to think what questions will people be asking and what objects should we be collecting
Hmm.
now so they can answer those questions.
That's wonderful. Now we're getting close on time, but I want to
Okay.
ask two final questions if I can. The
Mhm.
first one is, uh, part of being a curator and helping develop a collection, what's going on display, what are the exhibits telling about? Dag, when someone leaves your museum, what are you hoping they take away?
Right. Well, uh, one, you know, as a historian, I have a real soft spot. So, what I really hope they come away with is that they realize everything has a history. And it takes me back to this speech that Steve Jobs gave at Stanford when about uh, 15 years ago or so. It was the commencement address, and he said, "Look around you. Everything you see around you was made by humans. People like you." You too can make things like this. You can change the world. The world is just made up of people and y- like you. So go out and change the world. And that's kind of what I'd like people to feel, you know, um, that maybe the word empowered is a bit overused, but that they feel, not a victim of
Hmm.
the technology, that they really feel like, because I think a lot of us do feel somewhat abused by the technology. It can be very finicky, I find, and it's dealing with computers my whole life, and I still find them very
Hey, we had a
irritating.
finicky problem this evening.
Exactly. They're very irritating at times. Uh, but uh, but we love them. And so anyway, that's my main thought is that everything has a history. Everything I see around me was made by people, and I can make a difference. That's probably what I'd like to see. I can make a difference.
I love that. Oh gosh, I almost want to just end it there because what a beautiful note to
Mm,
end on. But I have to ask, this is my core question I ask my, especially my museum speakers.
mm,
You know, you've been working and you've been a historian. I'm assuming your entire career, even if it hasn't been at CHM specifically, but
mm.
you know, specifically with now working with the Computer History Museum, what is something that, being their curator, that has changed the way you interact with the world, um, by learning and sharing knowledge about these computers? How do you interact with the world differently now?
Ooh. Uh, well, I think I don't want to exaggerate, but I mean, I think I've come to realize how powerful words are, and they can really convey immense, great thoughts. And and if you think about it, I mean, our the tools we have are kind of limited. We have graphics, we have media, and we have words and the object, right? So I feel that what we can say in the label is essentially really why this object is important, and just not be totally to end on a sour note, but there's studies show only a third of museum visitors read the labels.
Dag, I'm going to be really honest with
But
you.
yeah,
I'm one of those visitors who might not read
I
all the
know.
labels.
I
I
know.
love looking at the
Yeah.
stuff. I love looking. And I always tell myself I'm going to read because I know people put a lot of work into it, but
Yeah.
I'm a horrible look and move person.
It's no problem. We're used to it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Dag, thank you so much for sharing your
Oh,
knowledge and spending your evening with us. And I
oh,
think those
thank
are
you.
two amazing notes to go out on, and they're so similar too, right? Not only are words powerful, but that we have the power to make a difference,
Mhm.
and that, and obviously we put the words together. So I think boards are powerful, and we're the ones stringing them together. It just
Yeah.
again shows the power we have. So thank you so much for giving us that nice little boost at the end of the night.
Oh,
And
great.
I hope people have the opportunity to get out there and visit you. And again, if not, they have beautiful online exhibits that you guys can check out, and you'll have the link for that in your inbox shortly. But until next time, from all of us here at the Schomburg Library, we wish you a wonderful